Dice, yeah, ay, ay. Good day and welcome. What if the end of the life you built is actually the beginning of the life you were meant to live? Today I'm talking with Elizabeth Jane, artist, keynote speaker, emotional well-being expert, and author of Free and First, Unlocking Your Ultimate Life, who turned a traumatic divorce, emotional collapse, and years of people-pleasing into a practical roadmap for healing, self-worth, and joy. We get into the moment her marriage fell apart, why she stopped living for everyone else, and how her ABCs of Me framework help people acknowledge pain, set boundaries, and communicate from truth instead of fear. Let's continue to keep one another powerful. This is the FYI I Am Damaged podcast. Now a word from our sponsor. Guys, I wrote a wonderful children's book called Logan, the Strong-Minded Little Elephant. I also created a wonderful children's song added to the end of this podcast inspired by the book itself. Check it out and have a fun time singing and dancing with your kids or all by yourself. Meet Logan, the strong-minded little elephant who learns that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about believing in yourself even when you're scared. In this beautifully illustrated story, friends follow Logan through a colorful jungle as he learns to calm his worries, take deep breaths, and remind himself, I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. It's a story that helps kids, and maybe a few grown-ups too, find courage, mindfulness, and strength in their hearts. Logan, the Strong-Minded Little Elephant by me, Oscar Luna. Available now at all major retailers and my publisher's bookstore, Milton and Hugo. Because it's up to every parent to show that their child deserves to know that strength starts from within. Thank you for joining me on another episode of FYI I Am Damaged. I'm joined by artist, keynote speaker, emotional well-being expert, author of Free and First, Unlocking Your Ultimate Life, Elizabeth Jane. Thank you for joining me.
Oscar, thanks for having me here today.
You're very welcome. Now, when people meet you, how do you like to introduce who you are beyond the bio and the book?
Well, that's absolutely fine. It's just really, I'm just a everyday person who went through a traumatic divorce, and with 4 young children, it was a surprise or shock, more just more. Um, yeah, it was a big shock, and that shock catapulted me into thinking about. It was a roller coaster of all different emotions, dark and times when I couldn't get out of bed, didn't know what I was doing with my life, because my 4 children were adults, and my husband didn't want me anymore, and I felt a sense of rejection and unworthiness and loneliness. And what am I doing on the planet now? And so I started organically writing a book, to help me, really, because I was looking for a manual to get me out of the dark place that I was in. And I wanted to lift up into to where I was always an optimist, and in the past, and I was always uplifting people, and here I was in a dark hole myself. So, and then I realized, people go through, um we're challenged every day. Some people are health challenged with their health, some with their finances, and some with relationships, either home or work. And so, say 3 baskets, and some people have got the whole 3 baskets. So I wanted to get a toolkit together in my book as to how to uplift people, and to feel better. Life's too short not to feel good, and to yes, you empower or to heal or whatever. But really, the bottom line is we're here for quite a short time, and we want to feel good. And feel joy and radiate joy for others to sort of lift up as well. You know, our friends and family and all our loved ones and the world. Mm.
That's
Yes.
amazing. And before Free and First and before the stages and interviews, what did life look like inside that 25-year marriage? And how did it feel long before it collapsed?
Yes. Well, Um, it was really we were 30 years together. So I was 23 years when I met my husband to be, and so everything happened quite slowly. It was just like you it's a bit like a frog in boiling water. You don't know you know, it sort of starts off and it starts to simmer, and you don't really realize what you're missing out on and what a true relationship should look like. And when you know, I was always sort of brought up to keep the peace and carry on. You know, I fell into the people pleasing category. I'd always looked to my parents for approval and love by being the perfectionist and the high achiever, and then my teachers, and then, you know, finally my husband and my children. And I hadn't really I with four young children, I was just simply sidelining my needs because I thought, oh, I've got everything I want. I've got a picket fence and a house and four amazingly healthy children and a marriage. What else? You know, I'm meeting all my needs, but they were the needs of my young family and my husband. And I had sort of overlooked, and I started to sidestep and lose track of me as I accommodated my growing family and my husband. So it was a very gradual thing. But I think, as you know, like I was brought up to say, well, you know, you keep the peace and you carry on. You don't mention things that, you know, bother you, you know, because it might ruffle the feathers of the family. And so I think that's, you know, I do a lot of interviews and podcasts about how important it is to be vulnerable and courageous and always to speak up about what's bothering you, because that enriches a relationship. It strengthens a relationship, whether we're talking with, you know, with your partner or your children, or even in your with your colleagues and boss at work. It's that the power of being authentic and feeling how you truly feel and being able to communicate that is very powerful. And it, you know, I have this tool in my book because I thought I have to really get this really, you know, summarized so as people doesn't not too profuse for people going through pain, whether it's, you know, a financial problem, a health issue, or a problem with relationship. And
Hmm.
so I started this tool called the ABC of me. You can stop, get off that life hamster wheel, and you can actually stop, pause, and feel. So A is acknowledge, allow, and accept how you feel. Now, not many people will allow themselves to feel those uncomfortable feelings. And that's why, you know, addictions are so high, because or even just busyness, you know, just being busy. Oh, no, I'm not angry. I'm just busy. Oh, no, I'm not sad. I've just got, you know, my to-do list is very long and I'm just going to get on with my to-do list. And so we're not feeling A, we're not doing A. Acknowledge, allow, and accept how we feel, because we're so overstimulated with screens and social media and work and family and you know, partying and then addiction. So it really stop us from doing A, which is the process to heal. So A, acknowledge, allow, and accept how we feel, and B is when we know how we feel, we know what we need, and then if we're brave enough and courageous enough, we can set the boundary as to what's bothering us. And the C is the communication and how to go about the communication of the boundary. If we follow the ABC, we'll be free because we become the leader of our life, and we're no longer pointing the finger at everyone around us for our predicament, because we've learnt, and it takes a lot of practice. It did for me, practicing the ABC over and over again, and having me times those I felt good enough inside to stand up, because initially I thought, oh, if I talk about that, if I actually stand up about that, well, my children won't like me. My husband may leave me. My boss may sack me. But it took courage, and it took vulnerability. It took practice. But following the ABC, I began to find me, and to be able to stand up, and to not being I became the leader of my life. So there was no one else to blame because I was standing up for things that I didn't want in my life. I was in a situation where I was learning to say yes to the things that make my heart sing, and no to the things, that didn't help me but hurt me. And
I
so,
Yes,
yes.
please.
I
Well,
know.
to your point and all of that, and for women or anyone in that sort of frame of, maybe they think they're in the beginning of the collapse of their relationship, or they're in the middle of it, or the end of it. Even then, it's still the beginning of a journey, because something might be ending for them. And when your marriage ended suddenly, what were the stories you were telling yourself about who you were and what your life now meant? Only because we know that when we're in some sort of turmoil, we're always telling ourselves a story, and it might not be a positive one. So
Yeah.
give us some reflection on, like, what were you telling yourself
Yes.
at that point in time?
Yes. I was terrified. I was terrified. I was alone, and I had no self-respect. I felt so unworthy, and I didn't know who to turn to, because I didn't want to worry my parents, because I was the capable one, the A student, the eldest of a family. And I was living in a different state to my parents. They were alive at the time, and so I didn't want to worry even my children. I didn't share my deep grief. Or first of all, it was shock. I felt total shock and denial. I said, "Oh no, my husband's just having a bit of a male menopause. I'll go away on holiday, and he'll be just open arms to receive me back." And which kept me safe. I think that the denial is a natural instinct when you deny something that's so hard to deal with. And so it was denial, and then it started to sink in, and then there was deep grief, and, as I said, unworthiness, and I was terrified, because I'd never really been the leader of my life. I was really happy just to hide behind my husband and live anywhere in the world that he wanted to live, and not to make we come onto this planet by ourselves, and we leave by ourselves. And I now know that we really have to navigate our own life. And that terrified me. I didn't really want to be the leader. I was just quite happy being, hiding behind the scenes. And so it took, sometimes I say 3 years, sometimes I say 5 years. Depending on it took me a while it was a journey to rebuild, but now I can see very clearly that the obstacle, the messenger, the person who brings the trauma to you in whatever form that is, or that challenge, or an obstacle, whatever you want to call it. The obstacle is the opportunity to empower, to grow, to really find the truth of you. And my book is about actually helping people, hopefully before they fall so low, that they can have the toolkit to take that challenge that is coming towards them and process it and use it for becoming more empowered and to find their truth of who they are.
And I love that quote. The obstacle is the opportunity, because
Yeah.
a lot of people, they have blinders on when they're going through their, I guess, event in life, and whether it may start off, rocky, that's something good in mind to say, hey, look, you're coming up to this obstacle, but guess what? It's your opportunity to become something better.
And yes, exactly, Oscar. And I think that the hardest thing looking back for me was it's so easy to point the finger at the person, the messenger of the obstacle, whatever form they, and to say, oh, well, my life will be so much better. All I have to do is remove my husband or remove my boss or or have some distance from that friend, just. But the problem is, unless we, if we've got resentment within us, we we have to work on our inner self. We have, inner landscape, our inner state, because it's a mirror. If we're not, how I found when I wasn't respecting myself, I would get disrespect coming to me. So life is a mirror. So your thoughts we attract, our thoughts we create, and our feelings we attract. So if we're not feeling good, if we're feeling insecure, we're feeling angry, it's the law of attraction. We will tend to attract that that person, that relationship in which has the same qualities that we have within us. But it's really hard to see those qualities. You can say, "Oh, I'm not angry," well, I'm not angry. But I think the relationships of the people around us are a really good indicator of what we need to look at within us. So if we are finding we're surrounded by angry people, we need to sort of like, oh, if you spot it, you potentially have got it. And it's really, if you get that chance to sort of feel that anger next time it comes to the surface, if we can do the ABC, acknowledge how that anger, oh gosh, hello anger. Because if we ignore the anger, it stays suppressed within us, and any emotion that is suppressed is not good for our health, I don't believe. And the doctors are cautioning on to that. They're saying, stress and anger, holding on to it is not good. It can lead to disease. So that's not an alternative. And the explosion, the road rage of having the big angry argument with someone, well, that's counterproductive as well, because we all end up giving our power away, giving our energy away. It's a big bomb of negative energy. It's not good for anyone. So it's really navigating that that middle line where we can have that empowered conversation. Feel A, acknowledge, allow, accept how we feel. B, set the boundary, and then we process that anger. That anger gets an opportunity to actually be acknowledged and to lift and to move on. And it takes it, that we've always got these opportunities or obstacles. Some yogis, they go, oh, good, another opportunity, opportunity, and it'll be in form of an obstacle. But they realize that it's an opportunity to lift up into more joy, more peace, and to allow the heavy emotions to be processed and to move on.
Yeah, that's what I love when and it's been the hardest thing of my healing journey, because well, it's been the hardest thing in the beginning to be aware, aware of yourself, aware of your emotions, aware of when that rumble comes in, when the negativity is going to come out, the shouting and everything, and to be to work on that self-awareness. So for your listeners, for mine, and it's insanely hard, but it's something that requires a lot of practice. And to be really self aware of your emotions, to know that, oh, something's coming, what's bringing that about? And whatever's bringing that about and maybe triggering me, then what is it triggering inside of me to show up? That awareness, even though it's a negative spot right there and it doesn't make you feel safe, as long as you're aware of it, then when the next one comes in, you're going to see that it's very different. I tell people that a lot. I said, if don't focus on just you're getting mad, focus on why you're getting mad and why is it making you mad. And the next time it comes through, you're going to see that, wait a second, that's not me anymore, because
Mm,
I know who I'm becoming, not who I am, who I'm becoming, because it's leading you into who you are going to be.
mm. Yes, I totally agree with you, Oscar. I think that it's important to when we're acknowledging how we feel, is not to allow ourselves necessarily to go over and over what I call it the drama, the shame blame game, if we want to keep it sort of simplified, in that, because that can again energize that negative energy. But what I find is when we can actually stop and actually feel that emotion of trauma or anger or whatever we it is for us, which can be a range of it, a multitude of different emotions. But when we can feel them in our body, so we can do a scan, and when we can actually feel it in your body, you can actually feel it. It might turn up in your little finger, it might turn up in your heart, it could turn up anywhere. But just to focus without with curiosity, more than, oh, not get away from me, you've been really annoying for a long time, but just to be there with that sensation, whatever that sensation is where your focus goes, the energy flows, and you are freeing yourself. And that emotion, once it's acknowledged, it does get a chance to move through. And so it's so important, I think, that the busy lives that we live, you asked about the hardest thing is to be fully in the present when you feel that anger, when you feel that sadness or that rejection. And if you can be fully present with it by concentrating on your breathing, or looking at the sights around you, and not go out of your body, like be fully grounded, then that emotion gets a chance to rumble through you. Whereas if we ignore it and we just go, oh, I'm just going to have another champagne, or I'll be fine, I'll be fine. I'm just, as we touched on, the emotional bypassing, oh no, I'm really fine. Is that you lose that opportunity to start the healing journey, and to let those emotions go. So, like if we look at our day, we can't keep track of our 60,000 thoughts a day. I think someone said we have 60,000 thoughts. Most of them are unconscious. All we can keep track of is how we feel, and check in during the day and how we feel. And if we're feeling not good, and another check is, well, we've probably unconsciously gone into the past, the shame, blame, should have, could have, would have game of the past, unconsciously usually, or into the fearing of the future. Or maybe we're jumping between them both. But if we can come back and ground ourselves and be in nature or do something that brings us joy and brings us, more importantly, into to being fully present and self-aware, we won't be losing our energy, giving our power away to the drama of the past or the fearing of the future. And so
Yeah,
that's a way we power up. We power up our energy by
no, you're
being
right.
fully present.
And
Yes.
I kind of equate being present when you do it every single time. I equate it to a stitch, and that stitch is going on your scar, your wound, your trauma, and every time you do that, it keeps closing it and closing it and closing it. People don't understand the power of being present and understanding that, okay, even though I'm going through something, going through that storm, and I can lessen the effect if I really understand it instead of running from it, instead of bypassing with something else. And well, moving on, you said that rock bottom became a rebirth. What did the beginning of that inner show where and what to work on first, and what was more practical than the rest?
Mm. Gosh, that's a big question. So to break that one down, I think that I realized, because I had a life coach, and I was also visiting India to ashrams, and so I realized that for that obstacle to be the opportunity, we had to learn something from the obstacle. Otherwise, we were going to get obstacles in the same flavor coming at us. You hear about women or men who are in an abusive relationship, and they manage to get out of that abusive relationship, and then they may head into another abusive relationship. So I realized that I really had to build me and to work out, okay, what am I to learn from this relationship? And what is my ex-husband, my husband, trying to gift me in terms of to empower me. And then I realized that the important thing for me was to stand up and to put me first, hence the name of the book, Free and First, Unlocking Your Ultimate Life. So as to actually go, hang on, that behavior is not on, and just to stand up rather than turn a blind eye or edit what I wanted to say, to actually speak from my truth as to what that behavior was on about. Because it's very easy to say, oh, well, I've got a narcissist in my life, or whatever. Just as an example, I've got a narcissist in my life, and it's all their problem, and point the finger at the person. But it's actually, it takes two to tango, and once a relationship doesn't condone, no longer the person doesn't condone the behavior, and stops enabling the behavior, the bully will move on to someone else. So it's a tapestry. So if the bully comes out of the schoolroom gates, the door, the bell rings, he flies out the door. He doesn't go and pick on Oscar, because Oscar knows, I'm not going to put up with that behavior. And you radiate self-worth and you radiate self-respect. And so the bully's energy, you're not a match to the bully. The bully will find the person who doesn't feel good about themselves, who won't stand up for themselves. And so yes, that person has got an opportunity to heal as well, if they have the toolkit. And so that's what my book's about, the toolkit to actually find the truth of you, that your powerful truth of you, which is, we're also powerful, but we're human beings. We're not human doings, but once we can slow down and feel how we feel, I think yeah, it's a really important thing. If we can do one thing during the day, is just to have a powerful pause to actually feel how we feel, and act on our feelings and use that as our guidance. Our feelings are very powerful to help us, our guidance system.
And it's a great lead into my next question because free and first, it is a framework for others, but it started as your own path back to yourself. When someone comes to you overwhelmed and heartbroken, where do you start with them? What's the first thing that they need to stop doing and the first thing they need to start doing?
Yes, that's a very important question, Oscar, because the toolkit is, everyone's at a different stage in their healing process, and everyone's got different levels of trauma. So there's no formula. So you really so in the beginning, I'll use myself as an example. I would have a go-to list on the fridge and by my toothbrush of 10 things to actually lift me out of the trauma that I was feeling, the traumatic state that I was feeling. So it may be, I think a lot of, it could be just grab ice from the freezer. So go to the fridge, open the freezer, and grab some ice in your hands. Now, why would I do that? Because that brings me out of my story, and brings me into the present, to the ice in my hands. It's brought me powerfully into the present moment. It could be going to pick flowers in the street, ring a friend, a supportive friend, not to talk about the drama necessarily, not to go on replay, not to watch the news, 10 times over and over again. The list should have 10 things that bring you joy. They can take 2 minutes. It could be dancing to a silly song. It will be different for everyone, but 10 small things, the go-to list to get you up, and not to expect too much of yourself, to be kind to yourself. The first chapter in my book, there's a whole chapter on me time, about building you, because you're not going to set that boundary if you don't feel good about yourself. So there's a whole chapter on me time to actually nurture you. And so in the early days, it's only about nurturing you. Instead of going for that extra drink to escape from your trauma, or any addiction for that matter, whether it's, busyness, shopaholic, gambling, whatever addiction it is for you. When you're on the verge of actually taking that drink or taking whatever it is, that is when is the powerful moment. If you can do acknowledge, allow, and accept how you feel, it can actually help that heavy emotion to lift from you. And so that's a really potent way of lifting up lifting yourself up here, starting your healing process.
I do take that to heart because when I was starting mine, someone asked me, and we were in a group, and they basically said, like, who are you today? And I had to think about it. And going through releasing my trauma, going through what I was currently going through, and just in the sort of tornado of my life and going through my journey, I said, you know what? And I even wrote it in my journal. And I wrote it on a piece of paper there, and I taped it inside of my journal, which I encourage a lot of people to do as well. It's a great relief to what may be clouding your mind. And that was, I said, it was an I am statement. I said, I am the master of my journey. You
Mm,
have to be. You have to take the wheel. A lot of people would do the spiritual bypassing and say, no, Jesus, you got it. You take the wheel. You're
mm,
what is that that saying a lot of people lean on when you only see one footpath in the sand, that you thought you were walking the path alone, but it was actually Jesus carrying you. But
mm.
there's some times where we have our free will. We have the ability to make, or at least to support the change in our lives. And, we have to take the wheel sometimes.
Yes. Yes. And like you touched on sort of spirituality and Jesus and all that sort of thing. I just want to say what I feel with all this is that that spirituality to me is just finding the truth of you. And the truth of you is just being you, which I know it sounds like, oh, but it's just peeling off the layers that are not you to see the shining bright side of, everyone is divine, but we've just got glad wrapped with a few things that we just have to sort of
Yeah, that's our
pierce
core.
through,
Exactly.
pierce through. So our core is all love and light and peace and all the good stuff, but the trauma sort of wraps around us, and so we need to sort of look at that, and where our focus goes, the energy flows, and that powerfully transmutes it into more light. It and powers us up into into a higher vibe, into to more joy, more peace, more understanding, more compassion, which we are all truly at the core. We are, love and light. So yes, so spirituality is there's all these different tentacles. I have friends, they're going to yoga, and they're going to yin yoga. I especially talk about, or kundalini yoga, which some of your audience may need to look up. Kundalini with a Kun, kundalini, which is all about helping heavy stuck emotions that have been suppressed unconsciously often. We may not know, oh, I've had a happy childhood. And we don't know that we're harboring um, things that can, emotion that can hold us back from being our truest, brightest self. And so Kundalini again is about and Tai Chi, and there's so many different modalities, kinesiology. There's so many that are about getting that energy moving within us and allowing those stuck emotions to move on. We've actually got 72,000 energy channels that run through us, which is a bit mind-boggling, really. We think we're just this physical body, but that's really only the start of us, really. And when we can realize and feel our emotions, that's the real power starts to begin, and we become our powerful selves. We step into a
Mm,
brighter, better world.
definitely. And knowing what is helping, and identifying something that we think it's helping, but it's actually a crutch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes. I was going to say something about forgiveness too, like, because forgiveness, because a lot of people go, well, I'm really happy, but I'll always have a grudge against blah, or a resentment. And Nelson Mandela put it really clearly. Said, like, if you're holding on to resentment, if you're holding on to grudges, it's like drinking poison yourself and expecting your enemy to die. So that's another thing that I had to really understand in my healing journey, that once we can not condone the behavior, of the person, the enemy, but not condone the behavior, but to actually see with compassion that they're on their journey as well. And, we can't control their actions, but all we can control is how we respond. And having forgiveness is lightens our load. It does magic for us. It lifts us. And that's the important part with the healing process, to be able to let go of the heaviness of things,
Definitely.
so more light can come in.
Yeah, that's the one thing that really began, was one, being curious that if I can go on my healing journey. And then when I knew I could, it was not forgiving what someone did to me, it was forgiving myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very key turn for me. And I hope people can realize it, or it makes sense down the line for them, when they listen to this, is that when you forgive yourself for, and it's, again, yeah, it's not, if you don't want to forgive whomever did whatever to you, you know to forgive yourself, because it wasn't your fault. It wasn't
Mm,
your fault. And you need to understand that, and you need to give yourself the grace and the compassion to know that, look, I'm here, I'm still
mm,
alive. And regardless
mm.
of what I've been through, I forgive myself to start healing.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Oscar. It's actually, I learned about this, the Ho'oponopono. Have you heard of the Ho'oponopono?
No.
It's about the three-way forgiveness. It's available on YouTube, and it's very, very powerful, and it's actually just 4 sentences. It's about forgiving yourself for forgiving yourself, forgiving the other person, and also um, allowing yourself to um, asking for forgiveness when you have caused pain to another as well, because it's not just people causing us pain, but we may have unconsciously caused pain to others. So I see it as a three-way forgiveness. And that if we can, say, I think the Hopopono is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you, I love you. And it's really powerful, those 4 lines. Are really powerful, and if you say them with with your heart, you'll find that a lot of emotion, for me it was, tears and anger, and would surface with just saying those 4 lines, because it's very powerful in forgiving yourself, forgiving the others, and also for asking for forgiveness from people that you may not even know, maybe unconsciously have hurt in the past. Or if you believe in past lives, that in past lives where you may have done the same to someone in the past, I can't remember my past lives, so I just don't know, which is probably a good thing. Yeah.
Now, you work with a lot of people who feel unseen, taken for granted, or anxious in relationships. What is that fight within a person where the head screams, "Please don't leave," but the heart reinforces the boundaries and self-respect?
Yes. So the please not leave is, first of all, let's just deal with the please not leave. I think people, the longer we're entrenched in a situation, that we tend to, like, we're creatures of habit, and we tend to think, well, I don't know what's out there. If my husband leaves, really, I don't know. I mean, it's better just to stay here, isn't it, than just delve out there. And the longer a program or the situation has been in place, the harder it is to leave. Whether we're talking about a relationship or whether we're talking about a job. And if either of them are not bringing us joy, it takes great courage to actually walk out the door and to take that on, because your mind can get in the way and go, oh no, well, I'll never get another job again. If I leave this job, I know I hate this job. I wake up and I don't like this job. I don't like anything about this job. But the reality is I have to put, bread on the table. And if I leave this job, what happens to me then? And so then we get into a spin. But then it's just really important to take baby steps to build you, to find hobbies. If you're in a job that you don't like, yes, maybe don't just pull the plug right tomorrow, but start to explore 10 minutes a day. Find 10 minutes when you maybe turn off social media, turn off the news, find 10 minutes a day to explore something that you may not have looked at, something that brings you joy in the form of a hobby. It could be painting. For me, it was painting and writing, which assists with, because it keeps you present. And we talked about anything that keeps you present. Hobbies are great because you're fully present. So you're doing the magic. You're actually processing heavy emotions. Children are often get, when they're with their psychologist will first of all grab a piece of paper and some crayons, because that child or adult, or when they're writing and creating, it allows its magic to happen, and the processing of the heavy emotions.
And it's interesting because with all that you've been through and pulling your own self out of the fire with your journey, and you've learned about your fears, your habits, your people pleasing. Um, Now you still must watch and work on those even now. So, can you impart on us any wisdom for those that kind of think they're backsliding, but they're aware of what they've been through, but then you're like, no, you're cognizant of all of that, and without backsliding, like, how do you prevent that?
Yes, a very good question, Oscar. I have a whole chapter on the challenges of this healing journey. It's a whole chapter. There's the me time chapter. There's the challenges, the setbacks. When we have a setback, I think the first thing is we don't shame ourselves. Oh, I'm hopeless. I'm never going to heal. This is taking too long. Why can't this be immediate? There's the impatience, the frustration. There's all that, once I dogmatically decided I didn't like myself where I was, and I wanted to climb the mountain. But you can't climb the mountain overnight. You have to enjoy the journey and reward yourself and look out as we step up the mountain. As we take our time. It's a journey. It's not like, oh God, I have to get to the top and that's all there is. It's, you enjoy the journey as you climb. And it's very important to the really quick thing when we know that we may be taking a step back and not taking a step forward is if we're not feeling good. Bring yourself, do it. It can be immediate wherever you are, whether you're at work or whatever you're with family, whatever you're doing with your day. If all of a sudden you feel that wave of emotion come upon you, whether it's the anger, the fear, whatever it is, call it out. Call it out. And if you can, go, oh, this is my opportunity. It's here right now. That really scary emotion is here. But if you can hang with it, if you can feel it, and be present with it, that's the power. That's when it's coming from within you. It's coming up to go, and if you can be there with it, it will move on, and then it'll dance on, and then the next time you'll get another opportunity when I'm feeling terrified, I'm feeling shit. I'm feeling so unworthy. Sorry, you have to beep that one up.
No, it's all right. Be yourself.
Whatever, name it. So stop out of your busyness. Stop before you have that drink. Stop. That is the powerful moment. That is that's when it can really be so powerful to help in your healing journey. If you miss it, who cares? It's always an opportunity next time. And don't shame and blame yourself. Do something that nurtures you, whether it's hopping in a bubble bath. I've had baths, and I've been in the bath for 3 hours. Now, why not? If I feel held and I feel nurtured, that worked for me. So whatever it is, make sure your list of 10 things really hold you and nurture you and comfort you. And don't go into that cycle of the shoulda, coulda, regret and blame game, because that will just make you feel worse. And as you're giving your power away, the time we explode with an argument, we're literally giving our power to the other person. Choose to keep your power, your energy within you. And that energy, that anger or disrespect is energy, and it can be put into another form, a more powerful form, to feel good. But you have to harness it. You have to take charge. It's only you that can do it, no one else. And so with all the distractions in the world, the power is to actually pause and to feel. Charlie Chapman's quoted in my book. Einstein is quoted in my book. Charlie Chapman, they actually met too. I Googled whether they'd met. So Charlie Chapman met Einstein. Charlie Chapman's quoted in my book as, the problem with humanity is they think too much. If they're thinking negative thoughts, it's draining them, and they feel too little. So our feelings are our guidance system to help us follow the ABC to be free, by acknowledging, setting the boundary, and communicating the boundary, the ABC. And then Einstein was quoted, no problem can be solved at the level of understanding or consciousness at which it was created. So if we're down heavy with shame and blame and feeling a victim, we won't be able to have the clarity to find the solution, to be able to lift up and see the problem, because we're in the woods, so to speak. We're in I used to think the quicksand, like if we get into the road rage, we're going deeper into the quicksand. If we go over the drama, we're going deeper. But once we can lift up, we get so much more clarity. And so Einstein was quoted, so that I'm thinking about writing another book about saying the only way out is up, uplifting your life. The only way out is up. And it doesn't happen overnight. And you have to practice it, you have to be determined. But the only way out of your problems, whether they're the health problems, whether they're the relationship problems, or whether they're financial problems, or even if you've got the three, the toolkit is really quite simple, in that you just have to keep following the breadcrumbs to lift yourself up out of the heaviness of the drama, not by bypassing, as we've talked about, because then that's the opposite to healing. You will stay stuck. by pretending or glossing over. Oh, look at my Facebook. I'm all happy faces. No, I don't have any sadness in my life. That is where we're numbing ourselves to how we feel. We're numbing ourselves, and that's just a no-no if you choose to heal into and lift up into a better, more abundant, happier, joyful, healthier life.
People really, they don't realize how, and a lot of people use it and try to brand it as their own, but you see it rearing its head in different ways. But ask your heart. It's like, ask your heart. It's like, get out of your head and really understand, stop. Don't ask yourself the question. Don't try to, like how you said with the Einstein quote. It's like, don't stay there. If you ask your heart and listen for the answer, it'll come to you. It'll come to you.
Exactly. And, like if it's not feeling right, go left.
Yeah.
Go left.
Yeah.
Like something simple like that. I saw a children's book with that. I thought that was quite fun. If it doesn't feel right, don't go that way. Go left. And
There you go.
if it's helping you, give it a tick, a green tick, and go ahead. If it's hurting you, maybe choose no. Maybe say, not today. I don't think it's going to help me. Don't have to give any more reason than that. So if we can use our feelings as our guidance system, if it's helping, green tick. If it's hurting, red cross.
Now, you've spoken about creating well-being spaces and sanctuaries. What is an ideal way to approach this compared to the way we typically respond now?
So, well, I think I wrote a poem. I do a lot of poetry, and any place can be your sanctuary. If especially if you've got access to nature. Nature is we're all made up of ether, air, fire, earth, and water, and when we go into a forest or dive into the ocean, most people would agree that they feel quite energized and peaceful and relaxed, and they feel amazing after being immersed in the ocean or whatever. So if a healing center, it would be just and I do believe in the power of vibration. I've done a lot of, from my times in India living in an ashram, with mantra and beige sounds, and even the simple sound of om is very, very powerful in helping energy to flow through us. So I sometimes give the example of a toddler. A toddler, when the toddler has a tantrum, what do? They don't go, oh, I can't be angry. Oh, I can't be angry. So that emotion gets an opportunity to pass through, because they bang their legs around and they scream, and then that emotion naturally, that heavy emotion naturally passes through. So in the healing center, I would have lots of different modalities available, from creativity to being able to write and to paint, and to be in a situation to listen to high vibrational beige sounds of mantra, which assist with allowing our energy centers, to be cleansed and energized and more activated, so as we can feel more ourselves and the truth of us as human beings rather than human doings. And of course, have the yoga and all different therapies. There's so many different therapies out there, whether it's Tai Chi or Qigong or kinesiology or anything where we're mindful, as tea ceremonies and things in Asia are just all to do with being in the moment. And anything where we're in the moment, we're simply powering up. We're actually more connected to the truth of us, and we're actually lifting up. And every time we're lost in our thoughts and not feeling good, we're unconsciously powering ourselves down. So if during the day we can go, oh, I think I must be powering down because I'm not feeling good, I'm going to skip into the now. I'm going to distract myself out of all this, mess. And I'm going to bring myself, even if it's just 2 minutes, I'm going to set my mobile phone for a 2 minute interval. And I'm just going to breathe. I'm going to focus on my big belly breathing and calm down my parasympathetic nervous system. I think I was reading that the amygdala, no, what's it called? The amygdala, amygdala.
You got
The
it.
is triggered, when we go into stress mode in the fight, flight, and freeze. The amygdala is triggered, which blocks our prefrontal cortex from actually allowing us to be logical, to find solutions. So we have to really go, okay, I can feel this stress coming on, and I want to be able to find a solution. I don't want to just like lose my power. I'm not going to just, okay, I'm going to be wise with this. I can see this is aggro's building in me, and I'm going to harness it. I'm not going to give my power away anymore. And I'm not going to trigger my amygdala. And therefore I can have my prefrontal cortex of my brain working on finding a solution, having that empowered conversation where I don't lose it with my boss or my child or my partner. But it's a whole chapter on communication in my book, how to have an empowered conversation, because there's communication and there's communication. So to be able to state with saying how you're feeling. I'm feeling angry. The other person can't argue with how you're feeling. That's the truth of you. You right now are feeling angry. You right now are feeling traumatized, and honor that, and then enter into saying what you need as your boundary as to what's bothering you, and to say it in your power. If we say it and we don't really believe it, we don't think we're worthy of having that boundary put there, well, it's not going to be enforced. So we have to always be building our self-worth by following our joy. And in the early days, as you said, the only thing you need to do, I mean, the first year or two was like, keep following your joy, keep following your joy, keep following your joy. Because when that trauma comes back at you, if you can see it for what it is, and you can feel it, but don't hang with it. Don't play in the mud with it. Don't go over the drama and over and over and over and fuel the negativity. Acknowledge it and go, okay, I'm acknowledging you. Thanks for showing up. Anger. Thank you. Thank you for not hiding in the crevices of my being. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for coming up. Sadness. Thank you for coming up.
That's how I feel about having conversations like this and recording an episode, and you know not knowing what am I going to expect with the person that I'm interviewing, and having these deep conversations and being aware. And I normally film from Tuesday to Thursday, and from that Friday to Monday, I do my best to be present for my family, for myself. But then you get the itch, of like, who am I going to speak to now, and what you know positive, or advice I'm going to get that I can give to my listeners. And dealing with both sides is just it's a great that's the ride that you want to be on, not the negative one, but what's the next positive thing that's going to come through? Because when the negative comes in, you have something positive to fight against that. And it just feels amazing to me.
Yes, I think when the self-doubt, it's very human to feel self-doubt, to feel, coming onto an interview and going, oh God, I'd probably just say something wrong, or my words won't come to me. But who cares? Because when we're authentic, then people can relate to us because we're real. Once we get rid of having to be something that we're not, that's the power to actually be vulnerable with our feelings, to be vulnerable with the person that we are at. That's much, much, much more
Yeah.
powerful.
I get that a
And
lot too. I get individuals, they ask me in the beginning, they're like, that's why I always ask them, I'm like, are you, curious about anything or whatever? I don't ask them like, what don't you want? They ask me, they're like, is it okay to curse? Is there a certain it's basically almost like them asking me, do I have to act a certain way? I'm like, no, act like be you. This is about you. This is about what you're trying to put out there in the world in whatever form it is. And I want you to be yourself, respond to the questions I ask. And, you know, I don't care. Throw in a few fucks, throw in a shit, like you did. Like it's okay, It's being your genuine self to say, hey, okay, look, this is me. I'm giving myself to you in this hour or so, and we're gonna discuss everything so that people who don't really put themselves out there like that and are so reserved can be like, you know what? I connect with this person. I
mm,
connect with them and I see something there, and you know what? I think there's something there to help me. And
mm,
that's what I love. It's, listen for something. Have something that grabs your ear and say, "Whoa, wait a minute." Like, "Okay, where is this leading me towards?" I'm like, "Hey, come on, come on, come on. This is your journey. Like, listen up and see where it leads you to know that, okay, I'm hurting with something. Maybe this might help me process it and then move to somewhere that, even though it might be uncomfortable, it's leading me to be better."
yes, exactly. And just on that note, about antidepressants, because antidepressants are they're very popular, so to speak. They're around the world. And uh, don't feel bad that you're on antidepressants, because I've never taken them, but they may help you delve into feel the trauma that you would not have been able to feel without the antidepressant. Do you know what I mean? So you go an emotional bypass, like, because it's just too traumatic. So they allow you to actually look at the trauma that you may safely not have been able to, like, um, and they keep people on the planet. So I just want to say that, all this natural therapy is fantastic, but so in conjunction with, I'm not a doctor. And please, to your audience, if they're in a health regime with their doctors, please continue it, because I'm just speaking from experience. But it's very important to always make sure that you're getting medical advice as well with your healing
Absolutely.
journey. With all these podcasts that are now on about healing journeys, it's also important to not neglect that as well. Yeah.
And I totally agree with that. Definitely, if you're making any changes and you're definitely taking any medication, like seek your doctor's advice and don't jump on all of these things you might see on Instagram that, say, hey, this is going to help you in this way. Like, go about it in the proper way. And finally, when you picture the next chapter of your own life, what would it mean to you to truly see people living free and first? And where can listeners go if they're ready to stop playing small and begin that journey with you?
Yes. Well, Thank you, Oscar, for that. So I have my website, elizabethjane.au is my international website, elizabethjane.au, and my book can be purchased through my website. I also, through my website, I do radio interviews around the world, but mainly concentrated in Sydney, Australia, where I am, or in Australia, I should say. So even if you want to listen to a 10-minute radio interview, they're all accessible through my website. And the podcast snippets will appear now on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook. So I'm using social media for a good cause in terms of so whatever method works for you in terms of accessing, and you can always find exactly what you want. Again, my book is available if you're using the book as a manual, you can actually ask, please, universe, help me with what I need right now, and open it on the page and read that page, and you will find the message that you're after, because the universe works in mysterious ways, and I really feel that.
Elizabeth, thank you again for giving me your time, your wisdom, sharing with me the ABCs, and just love your vulnerability, love your honesty, and love your mission of what you're trying to do for others. And, thank you very much.
Well, it's my pleasure, Oscar. Anytime.
This was a wonderful episode. If you've been waiting for life to get easier before you choose yourself, Elizabeth's story is your reminder that healing starts with one honest pause. We heard how her breakdown became a rebirth, how the obstacles became the opportunity, and why she believes the real work is not removing the people around you, but changing what happens inside you. Her message is simple. Stop, feel, and ask what your emotions are trying to teach you, because your worth doesn't come from keeping the peace at your own expense. Continue to heal, continue to love yourself and your scars. Those scars are there for a reason. Adelante, siempre por tu mente. Forward, always for your mind. This is the FYI I Am Damaged podcast. Stay tuned for that wonderful upbeat children's song I created. Play it for your little ones, and let the silly dancing and singing begin.
In a bright green jungle where the tall trees sway, lived a little elephant who felt big fins. Every day Logan loved to splash and play by the riverside, but sometimes wobbly legs made him wanna run and hide. Tummy doing flips like a stormy shaking drum. A tiny voice inside him whispered, what if I can't have fun? Then Brandon, the wise monkey, smiled from the tree, said, little friend, take a breath, come and sit with me. Feel your feet on the ground, feel your hand on your heart. We're breathing together, that's how courage starts. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Breathe it in slow, let it out with a wish. When my mind feels wiggly like a monkey in the trees, I calm my heart down with my breath and my knees. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Step by step forward through this, scared and know what if. Even when my tummy feels funny and tired, I can still be brave, I can still shine bright. Next day in the jungle they played a game of tag. Logan felt the nervous pull, his body started to drag, but he remembered Brandon and the tools he had inside. Took a deep gentle breath instead of running off to hide. Breathe in the sunshine, breathe out all the fear. Stomped his big elephant feet and felt his courage appear. With the wiggle of his trunk and a laugh so free, whispered to himself, there's a lion heart in me. His friends saw him smiling as he joined in the game. They asked, Logan, what's your secret? You don't look the same. He said, when my thoughts get loud, I don't have to stay small. I breathe and move my body and I stand up tall. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Breathe it in slow, let it out with a wish. When my mind be wiggly like on the floor. Let's just show this something you don't need to. Whisper to yourself when the worries rush through. I am strong, I am safe, and I know what to do. I am strong, I am safe, I can do this. Breathe in slow, lay it out with a wish when my mind feels wiggly like a monkey in the trees. Like I'm all down with my breath and my knees. I am strong, I assist, I can do this step by step forward, through the skin and know what it is. Logan showed the jungle and I show the world. There's a strong-minded hero in every boy and girl in the bright green jungle. When the stars shine above, brave little hearts fall asleep, feeling safe and loved.